people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
News! Okay, we'll start with this. A very disgruntled Victor Conte took to his social media and stated, "All this conspiracy nonsense that has been posted by Floyd Schofield Sr. is simply fake news. It's outrageous that Sr. seems to have made things up all along in an attempt to intentionally troll boxing. Floyd Schofield Sr. seems to have a serious disease called fabrication-itis. Boxing deserves the truth, so let's hope that the facts will emerge promptly. My guess is that Floyd Sr. has no credible evidence to support any of his false and outrageous claims, including those made about snack-sponsored boxers. Bear in mind that they've taken it all back," which we talked about in a previous video. Floyd Schofield Sr. has since retracted everything he said, and apologized. Some speculate that he may have been served with legal papers, which is what triggered the apology, but I don't think they would have served him a subpoena that fast. Not in the last 24 hours, when all of this started. Not while the Schofields were off in Saudi Arabia and Victor was here stateside. Though perhaps he had that in mind, the potentiality of being served a subpoena and being subject to a defamation suit for making baseless claims about Victor Conte and snack poisoning his son. Unless you've got a toxicology report consistent with poisoning of some kind, playtime's over. The advent of the internet has given rise to all manner of childish behaviors that we're used to. We're all used to it by now, but it's quite another thing to claim that somebody poisoned your kid. That's a little more than trolling. And if enough people say enough things about a person or that person's company, it's damaging to that company's reputation to the point where they can sue for defamation. It's only right. This ain't grade school. You don't get to keep saying any old thing about any old buddy without there being repercussions. If you're going to try to damage a guy's reputation and his company's reputation, make wild accusations and insinuations about what fighters they sponsor, you should at least be able to prove it. And if you can't, then you should shut the hell up and get sued. It all started with Ryan. Last year, who tried to lay the blame at the feet of Victor Conte and Snack and the Haney's for what was his positive doping test. The accusation never held any water, but people ran with it anyway because most people are morons. And it's not for love of Victor Conte or thinking that Victor Conte is the pillar of truth. It's that Ryan Garcia damn sure ain't either. What's likelier than not? That all of these external forces conspired against you, or that you're just another dirty fighter that got caught, like so many dirty fighters that get caught. You ain't different. You should have timed your cycle properly, so that when you get busted, I'm not gonna believe your cockamamie explanation any more than I believed anybody else's cockamamie explanations. And everybody's got them. That's where it started. And that's why everybody's using Victor Conte and Snack as the unofficial fall guy for whatever happens in the sport, no matter how ridiculous the accusation is. Trying to make Victor Conte out to be Kaiser Soze now? Stupid. Victor Conte continued, "It is pathetic that Floyd Schofield Sr., posing as his son, has now made a joke out of his son's boxing career. Neither Floyd Sr. or Floyd Jr. were ready for this world title opportunity." Common sense. "They have caused lots of disruption and distraction from a great boxing card in Saudi. Floyd Sr. is basically responsible for this pitiful display. He has presented not a single shred of evidence to support any of the lies that he is told. Boxing deserves more respect than what Floyd Sr. has brought to such an important event." And that's what gets me. It's not because Victor's saying it, it's because guys like Floyd Schofield shouldn't be allowed to waste everybody's time, then walk away without any accountability, because that's what he did. What the hell was this if not a waste of time? You pretended you wanted the fight so that you could use Shakur's name for clout, but when push came to shove, you didn't really want to do it. And that's what all of this exposed. You shouldn't get to waste that much of other people's time and walk away, not without your feet being held to the fire. Brian might have been the one that started it, but you see what it's escalating into. Everybody wants to blame Victor Conte and Snack for their problems when really, it's just you. It's just you wasting people's time. That's why my recommendation is the next time somebody wants to get all willy-nilly with Victor and Snack as a company, you should sue them for defamation. You should send out a cease and desist letter, and if they don't, take them to court. We'll see how much you mean business, or how much you don't.
But what do you care?
I care because it's a vehicle for boxers to continue to waste everybody's time while skirting around accountability. That's why I care, because the American boxing scene seems full of children these days, telling tall tales, and somebody's got to put a stop to it. Then super middleweight news, the Christian Mbilli versus Lele Sadjo IBF Eliminator is off. Happening in the background of this manufactured controversy, the IBF super middleweight final elimination bout between Christian Mbilli and Kevin Lele Sadjo will no longer take place after Mbilli's team pulled him out of the bout. According to Mbilli's promoter, Camille Estefan, we have suffered an injustice, and we do not accept it. We have other equally interesting avenues for Christian, who is a candidate for number 1 via the WBC and the WBA. The bout was reportedly tabbed for May 8th after the original IBF deadline of April 30th.
I guess that was the issue. They wanted to deal with this in a timely fashion, whereas the other guys, they wanted to push it out to May.
Kevin Lele Sadjo's promoter that won the purse bid for the fight wanted to do it in France, and they were the ones at the helm of the promotion, but it would seem they wanted to push it out, so the Mbilli people took issue. Now, they're going another route.
Who's Kevin gonna fight?
So what's important to note is that this snafu delays the installation of the next IBF mandatory challenger, unless Kevin's promoters can find somebody else to fight within the same window of time they were going to fight Christian Mbilli, who's ranked at number 3, where Russia's Vladimir Shishkin is ranked at number 2. He's the highest ranked contender.
So maybe they fight him in May?
Kevin Lele Sadjo is ranked at number 4. Diego Pacheco is ranked at number 5. Oli Iglesias is ranked at number 6.
Well, I don't think Kevin Sadjo is going to land on Diego Pacheco, but the other two guys, Vladimir Shishkin, Oli Iglesias, he might end up fighting one of them in an IBF final eliminator. We'll see.
What about Christian Mbilli?
According to veteran boxing scribe Jake Donovan, he's told that Christian Mbilli will likely next explore the WBC route with hopes of an interim title fight now that, as first reported by Punching Grace and Lexa, he is no longer next facing Kevin Lele Sadjo in an IBF super middleweight title eliminator. WBC number 2 is Diego Pacheco, which would mark the exact same matchup originally ordered by the IBF last year. Pacheco was pulled from the proceedings just prior to purse bid last December, since he was already due to face Steven Nelson, whom he defeated last month in what was a good fight.
And so it would seem that Diego Pacheco and Christian Mbilli are once again on a collision course. It didn't happen last year via the IBF, but it might happen this one via the WBC. And I'm all for it.
Christian Mbilli is a pressure fighter. Diego Pacheco is a boxer puncher, so you know how this breaks down.
For a fighter like Christian Mbilli, his offense is his defense, closing the distance and crowding his opponent, overwhelming them with activity. Except if you try to do that to Diego, you're gonna run into something, because this is a tall super middleweight, a long super middleweight, and he knows how to manage the distance.
With power.
He's got real stopping power, this kid, and he's coming along. Some mixed reviews as to how he looked in the Steven Nelson fight. I personally think he looked great. I think they both did.
Watching a fight, I felt like I was looking at the number 1 and number 2 super middleweights in the world, with the exception of Canelo, of course, who's the king of this division. Outside of him, I felt like Diego and Steven were the number 1 and number 2 guys at this weight, because I would pick them to beat most of this division.
I would pick Diego Pacheco and Steven Nelson to beat Caleb Plant, to beat Edgar Berlanga, to beat Jaime Munguia.
You think they'd beat Jaime?
Buddy, that's not a hot take. Bruno Sarace beat Jaime, a guy with only 4 knockouts from France beat Jaime, so I don't think it's a hot take that Diego would beat Jaime, or Steven Nelson might beat Jaime.
Bektemir Melikuziev got knocked out by Gabe Rosado.
Take a look around. Take stock of the landscape and ask yourself which one of these guys beats Diego and which one of these guys would beat Steven Nelson.
Not Christian Mbilli.
According to veteran boxing scribe Jake Donovan, he's exploring the WBC route. He might go in that direction, but I'm not convinced that he will, because if he does, he's going to run into Diego.
Camille Estefan also mentioned the WBA.
Camille Estefan, who promotes Christian Mbilli, and it just so happens that Christian is ranked number 1 with the WBA, Guatemala's own Lester Martinez. He's ranked at number 2.
Who's that guy?
Exactly. Why get all caught up in a dangerous fight in a difficult situation with Diego Pacheco and Matchroom when you can fight some nobody in Lester Martinez? It might be an easier fight to make because, to my knowledge, Lester isn't with a major promotional outfit.
And he's not with Matchroom.
He's been fighting on Pro Box, last in action in June of last year opposite the ring seasoned veteran and hard puncher Carlos Gangara.
That was in June.
He's got a fight coming up next month on the 22nd on Pro Box against Joshawn James. Provided that he makes it through that fight to maintain his rank, I could see something happening between him and Christian Mbilli, a cheaper, safer alternative to Diego Pacheco. I think I would love to see Mbilli versus Pacheco, but I'm not convinced it happens.
And if it doesn't, who does Diego Pacheco fight?
Via the WBC, Diego Pacheco is ranked at number 2. Cuba's own Oli Iglesias is ranked at number 3. I've been hearing this and that about the Iglesias kid, but I haven't seen him myself. I heard he's good.
Maybe Diego fights him?
Maybe he fights Croatia's own Luka Plentic, who's ranked right behind the Iglesias kid.
Maybe.
Diego Pacheco seems an anomaly to me because of who his trainer is, because of who's in the corner, Jose Benavidez.
David's dad.
Because I see more in terms of footwork and coordination in Diego than I see in David. I see more in terms of range control
in Diego than I see in David.
Diego's got more bells and whistles. That's my evaluation. That's how it looks to me. Which is what makes it an anomaly, because they're part of the same stable. They're part of the same team. They're both trained by the same guy.
He's a good fighter, Diego.
I think if the fight happens, he knocks out Christian Mbilli. If the fight happens, I'm just not sure that it's going to. Finally, in men's light heavyweight news, David Benavidez flies to Riyadh to pressure Artur Beterbiev versus Dimitri Bivol winner.
Pressure them. He was invited.
Who wrote this article?
Lance Pugmire.
David Benavidez has learned his lesson from being put on pause by Canelo. If you want something to happen, you have to assertively speak it into existence. That's why Benavidez will be boarding a flight to Saudi Arabia Thursday to firmly state his intention to fight the winner of the undisputed light heavyweight title fight between champion Artur Beterbiev and his Russian countryman Dimitri Bivol. He knows an IBF mandatory opponent in Michael Eifert might be first in line in the rotation of top-ranked contenders, and knows there may be a call for the Beterbiev versus Bivol trilogy match should Bivol avenge his October majority decision loss at the Kingdom Arena in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. But Benavidez, 30-0 with 24 KOs, coming off a strong showing in his unanimous decision win of Cuba's former unbeaten David Morrell on February 1st, wants to launch an immediate and in-your-face campaign that he's most deserving of being next for Saturday's winner.
Lance Pugmire is deliberately misrepresenting this. This is not David Benavidez applying pressure or doing any of this on his own. He was literally invited to be there by Turki El Sheikh himself. What campaign is Lance talking about?
The reason we're going to Saudi is that both the WBC and WBA have said that David is a mandatory to fight the winner of Beterbiev and Bivol. There's a strong possibility we can make this fight happen. Benavidez's father and trainer, Jose Benavidez Sr., told Boxing Scene on Wednesday. So we want to put an appearance in so we can put a little pressure on them. We're excited to go there and see if something can happen.
Boxing Scene is now owned by Gary Jonas of ProBox, and ProBox has a close affiliation to the PBC, so perhaps that's why the writers there write the articles so favorably.
They're so flattering of the PBC's fighters,
to the point where they're almost misrepresenting the story. David's only going because Turkey invited him.
This is not like Clubber Lang calling out Rocky Balboa at the steps of the Philadelphia Museum of Arts. Phoenix's Benavidez stands as the WBC interim and WBA secondary light heavyweight champion, and his popularity is such that he's headlined consecutive pay-per-views while being cast as one of the sport's most popular future draws.
Future draws? You mean he's not a draw already?
Consecutive pay-per-views. You mean the ones that failed to crack 100,000 pay-per-view buys?
3 of them.
On the heels of his victory, Saudi Arabian financier Turki El Sheikh invited Benavidez a ringside seat that he and his father will now take him up on. The Benavidez family have never seen Bivol 23-1 or Beterbiev 21-0 fight in person. By virtue of his more effective power punches, Beterbiev, 40 years old, prevailed in the October bout over Bivol by scores of 115-113, 116-112, and 114-114. A lot of people said when we were interim champions to Canelo that we should go and make an appearance. We never really did. We didn't want to be those kinds of people, but now I feel we have to bring as much pressure as we can, Benavidez Sr. said. It will be good to go and hype up the fight and try to make it happen. Beterbiev promoter Bob Arum told Boxing Scene on Wednesday that he hasn't thought ahead to what Beterbiev will do next should he repeat his victory over Bivol. The IBF permitted one exception for this rematch to occur with Eifert waiting, but likely wouldn't allow Benavidez to jump in line without stripping the belt from whoever stands as champion following Saturday's rematch. El Sheikh has suggested he'd want to see a trilogy fight between Beterbiev and Bivol should Bivol win on Saturday, but former super middleweight champion Benavidez would be the more attractive play according to Benavidez Sr., and he's not wrong. He's not wrong there. More people would want to see the winner of Saturday's fight David than Michael Eifert.
This is the most that we've heard about Michael in a very long time. Michael Eifert became the IBF's mandatory challenger well before David got his spot.
Approximately 2 years ago in March of 2023 when he outpointed former champion Jean Pascal.
He's back.
Everybody's working with Turkey, so if we stay out of there, are we ever going to get the fights we want? It makes more sense for us to get the winner. Which fight do the people want to see? Benavidez Sr. said. Who do we have next? What are we going to do next? Are we going to sit there and wait like we did for Canelo? We're tired of waiting. We've got to go there and work this ourselves. Put in our input, you know?
Up until this latest mention of Michael, I didn't know what the hell happened to that guy and whether or not the IBF was going to push for that mandatory. For that, I have a solution.
Anything can be worked around. That in the event that Dmitry Bivol wins this weekend, and they move to do a trilogy between Artur and Dmitry, what you can do is have David Benavidez fight Michael Eifert on the undercard.
If there is a trilogy.
If Dmitry actually wins. If he doesn't, then this is all much ado about nothing. Then you can move forward with a David Benavidez versus Artur Beterbiev fight. Maybe you let Dmitry Bivol fight Michael Eifert on the undercard.
Or the winner of Callum Smith versus Joshua Buatsi. Let them fight Michael Eifert on the undercard.
Because Turkey moves fast. The rate at which he puts these fights together, there's no reason for David Benavidez to go anywhere unless
you didn't really want that fight.
That even if there is a trilogy, Turkey can keep you busy and put a lot of money in your pocket while you wait.
What's one more fight?
You were in the super middleweight division for something like 10 years. You can't wait one more fight? For all the belts, for all the marbles at a new weight?
I still don't believe he's going to fight the winner of that fight. I'm just making suggestions.
We'll see what shakes out after Saturday.